to the national anthems. Please take your seats. Honorable Minister and your team, my name is Mashasha Willis, Director Manifesto of the Presidency, and on behalf of the Presidency, which supervises the monitoring of the implementation of the manifesto, I take pleasure to welcome you and your team to this another session of the Manifesto Week. I don't need to go back to the background because you are a member of cabinet and this was brought to the attention of cabinet. But I want to say we are here, we are in the second week of the activity, and Honorable Minister, this is a media interactive session. It's not a rally, it's not a baraza, but we have technology that is a medium through which message is delivered to our citizens wherever they are. We are also streaming live this program on UBC, and many of our other citizens who are not near TV, who are near their phones, they have links, they can enjoy the YouTube productions. So today we have the Honorable Minister and the team from Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, who will be sharing with us on the different commitments that we put in the manifesto 21-26, and we'll be listening on the journey made so far on how far we have moved in implementing the various commitments. Lands continue to be, or land in particular, continues to be very central. It's a factor of production, and the proposed interventions were captured in various thematic areas of wealth and job creation, of ensuring equity and justice, in ensuring protection of property of people. So we really want to see how we have moved on this area of making our people utilization of land, the housing strategy, and the rest of the commitments that we made. So, Honorable Minister, I want to take this pleasure to now invite you to come and inform the country and all our viewers, wherever they are, on the status of implementation on the various commitments that we made in this sector. Honorable Minister, thank you.
Thank you, the Manifesto Implementation Secretariat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the status of the NRM Manifesto implementation by the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, relating to basically three elements: the lands itself, the housing component, urban development and physical planning. The mandate of the ministry is to ensure rational and sustainable use, effective management of land, and orderly development of urban and rural areas, as well as safe, planned, adequate housing for the socio-economic development of Uganda for all of us. In the last elections, the NRM government, through the Ministry of Lands, made a number of commitments. Commitment number one, relating to lands, was to increase the land fund to resolve the historical dual ownership of land in Buganda. This is a historical, real situation which has existed for a long period of time. The NRM government has continuously addressed this matter. For the last 5 years of the manifesto, these are the achievements so far. The Uganda Land Commission has been able to secure land rights for lawful and bona fide occupants as follows. A, the Uganda Land Commission acquired 126,995.91 hectares of land from absentee landlords in the various areas of the absentee landlords. In Anikole, it acquired 9,966.34 hectares. In Buganda, ULC acquired 19,556 hectares. In Bunyoro, it acquired 79,846.21 hectares. And Toro, we acquired 17,325.98 hectares of lands from the absentee landlords. And these were now given and apportioned to the bona fide occupants. From those figures, you will note that Bunyoro is the highest figure of 79,846.21. This is because historically, this area of conflict between absentee landlords and bona fide occupants has been centered around Bunyoro. B, we processed 11,819 titles for lawful and bona fide occupants in the above stated regions. A number of the others have acquired, but the completion of the titling itself is a continuous process. C, the processing of 6,000 land titles for lawful and bona fide occupants in Kagadi and Kakumiro is underway. Number two, ULC has requested the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and the National Planning Authority to increase the funds for the land fund. However, because of shortage of funds in the central government, the request has not been honored, but it has been considered. Our third commitment was to support customary owners register their land in accordance with the law. You know, in many parts of our country, there's customary ownership of land. And we think this, for the long term and for economic purposes, is not going to be sustainable. So government says there must be funds to make sure that this is changed. In that respect, 90,000 certificates of customer ownership, called CCOs, were produced and issued to beneficiaries in Kasese, Noya, Pade, Butaleja, Adjumani, Kisoro, Kabale, Mbale, Agago, Apache, Maracha, Soroti, Katakwi, Dokolo, Amolata, Terego, Kowoko, Moroto, Nabilatuk, Kabong, Amudat, and Namtumba. In addition, 903 communal land associations were formed as legal entities to register, hold, and manage their lands communally. These are communities that opted to hold their land as a community instead of individuals acquiring the titles. So we helped to form 903 of them. Certificates of customer ownership, CCOs workflows have been developed to allow for the migration on the existing CCO records to be integrated in the National Land Information System. In other words, those will be equally registered in the National Land Information System like any other certificate of title and ownership. Our commitment number 4 in the last manifesto, in the current manifesto, was to scale up systematic demarcation in more districts for both customary and freehold land. In other words, to help our people to acquire certificates in both customary and freehold land. The status is as follows. Wherever 125,000 freehold land titles were registered in the districts of Kiruhura, Ibanda, Ruampara, Mbarara City, and Oyamu districts through what we call the Systematic Land Adjudication and Certification Project, SLAC. There are many others, but they have not been issued out. Number 2, 346,222 parcels of land were demarcated under the SLAC project in the districts in the 19 local governments of Maracha, Apache, Soroti, Serere, Bukedia, Namutumba, Uuka, Mayuge, Jinja, Kamuli, Chikube, Ibanda, Shema, Mtungamo, Oyam, Kiruhura, Ruampara, Isingiro, and Mbarara City. Again, we have prepared number 3, 6,556 land titles through the SLAC again for the refugee holding districts of Kamwenge 801, Isingiro 473, Kiriadongo 2,176, Lamo 590, Yumbe District 1,228, Adjumani 144, Terego 712, and Obongi 503 certificates. Number 4, we have supported customer owners in 7 refugee hosting districts of Kamwenge, Isingiro, Kiriadongo, Lamuo, Adjumani, Yumbe, and Terego to register their land. Number 5, under other various SLAC programs, A total of 30 districts have been covered, including Kibale, Mbale, Iganga, and Rukungiri, which were done in the first phase of the systematic demarcation program. So in total, we've covered close to 53 districts out of the 146. This is not a small number compared that this is the first time that any government is trying to do it in Uganda. Our commitment number 5 was to clean up the land registry and cancel multiple land titles on the same land and remain with the genuine ones for the people to hold as proper property. As you all recall, over time, double registration of land has been occurring. We are now cleaning this. The status is as follows. 964 land titles were cancelled, while the process of cancellation of the remaining land titles is ongoing. This is a slow process. It needs to be carefully done so that people who have genuine titles or acquired them in good faith are not in any way inconvenienced. But we are determined to complete that process. We resurveyed 4 cadastral blocks in Luwero and Wakiso. The separation of combined blocks is ongoing across all affected zones. This process is part of reducing double plotting and overlapping surveys. 35 ratifications of surveys and mapping data were made across the country, across the rather 22 MZOs which are across the country. A total of 24 continuous and operating reference stations, what we call cores, have been established to improve the quality of surveys undertaken in the country. This is extremely important to make sure that in future, any person who wants to do a piece of survey of land does not create his own point of reference, but rather uses established standards. This is a big achievement. We digitized the Kalamozo and incorporated it into the LIC system. The Kalamozo is the original system of keeping land information, but we have now established a modern IT-based land information system, and we're migrating the Kalamozo to the land information system, the modern one. Commitment number 6. We also wanted to support the traditional cultural leaders in resolving customer land conflicts. And in this respect, you all know that our cultural groups and religious leaders hold vast pieces of land in the country. And these are areas of temptation for trespassing, and therefore it is very important that we support these institutions. And the president himself issued the directive to make sure that they are supported. We started with supporting the faith-based institutions to register their land. The traditional faith-based organizations like the Catholic Church, the Church of Uganda, and the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. In Kampala, we've supported the Archdiocese of Kampala to register its pieces of land. And all over the country, we've supported the 39 provinces, dioceses of the Church of Uganda. And we're also supporting the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council land registration in Kampala. 2, the traditional leaders, cultural leaders, and religious leaders in Karamoja sub-region were trained in resolving customer land conflicts and land management during creation of communal land associations. And in that respect, we have established and built the capacity of the mediation committees, particularly these in Acholi, in the districts of Agago, Noya, Gulu, Amoro, and Omoro. in addition to those in Karamoja. Land awareness weaknesses were conducted in Karamoja, Teso, Central Region, Southwestern, and Busoga sub-regions to sensitize the public on their land rights and other land-related issues. These are extremely important sensitizations so that our people are aware of the roles and the importance of their land. Our commitment 7 was to roll out the public portals of the land information system to facilitate customer searches. This is perhaps one of the most important in stabilizing the administration and the management of land in the country, because many fraudsters and other people who do not want to have a smooth transfer of land based themselves on the ignorance of the people and the non-availability of information to the people. And this process is meant to provide that information at the fingertips of the people. Now, in the 22 MZOs, that is the ministry zonal offices in the country, which cover the whole country, we launched the Uganda National Land Information System portals, similar to those things you see in the telephone and those in the diaspora, to provide citizens and those in the diaspora with instant search results for land titles. If you use that portal, you are now able to see the status of a piece of land in which you are interested, whether for acquisition or for any other purpose, or for mortgage or for banks. And this is in all the MZOs, the 22. We also developed the ministry client's charter and access to information manual, making sure that the ministry relates to the people in an acceptable manner in handling land issues. We established a call center and a toll-free line, which is available to all Ugandans wherever they may be. And this number is 0800 10004. If you want to reach the Ministry of Lands from anywhere within Uganda, you can use that to reach our call center, and definitely somebody will answer you and give you the necessary information before you transact any issues on land. Number 4, we established a one-stop service centers at the URSB, Uganda Investment Authority, and the Hoima District Service, Land District Service Center, where the ministry services can be accessed. In other words, if you cannot use what we have already given you, and for example, in the registration of a title and so on, you need to use the services of URSB, you go to those centers and you will find all our services there. They will be accessed on the portal. Commitment number 8 is to integrate the land information system with other government agencies so that it does not stand alone. It becomes part of the information system in the whole country. In this respect, we have integrated the system with the NIRA, that is National Information Registration Authority, NITAU, URA, and URSB. The status up to date, that information of the land information system has already been integrated with the NIRA, URA, URSB, NITAU, UNRB, and URAE, Uganda Investment Authority. The integration has enabled data sharing amongst government agencies, including the banks. If you go to the banks, lying about a particular piece of land, the banks cannot access that information online. Commitment number 9 is about housing and job creation programs to sustainably raise citizens' income levels to enable them to afford decent housing. The status is as follows. Within Kampala and particularly at Lugogo, we have organized 2 sensitization and awareness seminars on housing development and decent housing conditions. Number 3, we have prepared and distributed the prototype house plans in the districts of Maracha, Koboko, Katakwi, Amuria, Shema, Rubirizi, Gomba, Mbende, Chenjojo, Ntoroko, Rubanda, Kanungu, Bugweri, Namusindwa, Namutumba, Palisa, Pulisa, Kakumiro, Kagadi, Kikube, Buvuma, Katakwi, Butebo, and Kapila beyond. The good thing about these prototypes is that they're easy, they are cheap, they can be constructed with local materials, and they are really meant to support urban areas and rural housing. Commitment number 10, the ministry undertook to provide essential public services, including clean water, sanitization, healthcare, and education to informal settlements in Kampala's slum areas. These services will also be provided to informal settlements in other cities and municipalities. The status is as follows. We identified and profiled the slums and informal settlements to benefit from these services in 8 urban areas of Soroti, Mbale, Gulu, Arua, Hoima, Masaka, Kamwenge, Kayunga, district local governments, and the Mbarara city. They have not been implemented per se because of lack of funds. We supported cities and municipalities implementing the national housing policy as one of the strategies to implement slum redevelopment strategies. Number 3, communities in Mbarara, Palisa, Masaka, Hoima, Tororo, Mbale, Gulu, Arua, and Maracha were mobilized into housing savings groups and cooperatives. We believe instead of always looking outwards, we must combine, and our people should be able to look inwards within their available resources to acquire decent houses. And one of the ways we think is to form them in housing cooperatives. This we have done in the districts that I have already read. Commitment 11, we committed to reduce the cost of building materials to make sure that our people are able to use minerals such as limestone and iron, or to develop integrated industries for building materials. Basically, other local materials. This will address cement and steel desires. The status is we've developed a project for enhancing access to decent housing. The project aims to establish a housing innovation support center to boost adoption of locally and international developing housing products, services, and solutions that will address the cost of building the materials. The next step is to disseminate those projects that we have developed. Still on housing, the Ministry of Lands and Housing is desirous of recapitalizing the National Housing and Construction Corporation to build low-cost housings for the public servants and other deserving citizens. In this respect, the status is we have done the evaluation, and a capital call of 118 billion Uganda shillings is being made to the shareholders, who are the Libyan government, and the government of Uganda. The government of Uganda has provided 30 billion, while 88 billion is still outstanding, and in addition, there is 118 billion outstanding from the Libyan Arab government. Commitment number 13 was to also recapitalize the Housing Finance Bank. This is a deliberate bank which was formed by government to provide housing, to enable it to expand and provide affordable mortgage finance. The status is as follows. The bank, working with the government, is in the process of establishing a line of credit to enable the bank to provide affordable mortgages that will support housing development in the country, including associated services like utilities, sanitation, waste management, etc. The country will want to know that at the moment, most people who go for mortgages are really going for commercial loans. These in the long run cannot develop an adequate housing for the country. We need a deliberate effort as a government to provide that, and we think the vehicle here is the Housing Finance Bank. Number two, the government has provided over 10,000 mortgages for incremental housing on an annual basis. And some of the beneficiaries include market vendors, border riders, taxi drivers, etc. This has been given deliberate mortgages from the government. Number three, we carried out a feasibility study of the mortgage liquidity facility, and the government, in this case the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Uganda are working jointly for the establishment of this facility, or what we are calling the mortgage liquidity facility. Number four, we commenced the review of the housing policy and legal frameworks with a view of introducing incentives for housing development, because we think the housing policy, which was made more than 10 years ago, has not done its part, and it needs reviewing so that it can fit in the urbanization, rapid urbanization, increase in slums, so that our people are able to afford. And in the rural areas, we had plans, we had promises on physical planning and urban development. Our commitment in this respect, the first one, but in total the 14th commitment for the ministry, was to continue improving roads and infrastructure in cities and municipalities. The status is as follows. We have delivered 214 kilometers of urban roads in the cities and urban areas. We have also made walkways. That is, if the people cannot walk on the main road, they should be able to walk by the side. 332 kilometers. Those who are riding bicycles, we've also made them lanes, 342. Parking lanes, for those who would like to park, 128, we have built those. Bus bays where buses can park, 10 of them in the country. Covering line drainages, the drainages along the roads, 535. You will note that in the past, most of our drainages are open. But under the projects of the Ministry of Lands and Housing and Urban Development, the drainages by the roadsides are covered. Solar street lights, we have delivered 12,573 solar lights across the country, and so forth. The others, you can see the details on the presentation as it appears on the. Now, commitment continue to improve road infrastructure in municipalities. Again, there are specific towns where we've done this. In Arua, Gulu, Kitgum, Apache, Lira, Moroto, Soroti, Mbale, Tororo, Busia, Jinja, Kamuli, Entebbe, Masaka, Mubende, Mbarara, Kabale, Ntungamo, Hoima, Fort Portal, Kasese, and Lugazi. We built a total of 214 tarmacked roads, and I think people can appreciate them right now in the country. Commitment number 15, we improved roads in the local governments hosting refugees. There we were able to build 408 kilometers of community access roads, which have been made motorable throughout the year for easy mobility and access to services for host communities and refugees in the 8 districts of Adjumani, Obongi, Kamwenge, Lamuo, Isingiro, Kiriadongo, Terego, and Yumbe. These roads include the construction of 6 bridges, 3 primary drainage channels, 29 culvert boxes, totaling 213 culverts of various sizes, totaling 8,549 meters, and 213 solar street lights in those areas, in the rural areas. We've also constructed 46 sub-projects to strengthen interaction and peaceful coexistence between refugees and host communities. These include leisure parks, 17 markets, 6 playgrounds, 21 resource centers, a taxi park. Commitment number 16, dealing with the land fragmentation and poor land use practices. This particularly related to the issue of physical planning, which is a new phenomenon in Uganda, and our biggest challenge has been to make sure that Ugandans accept that in the light of heavy urbanization, in the light of a huge employment in the population, you have no other opportunity if you want to use your land best other than to do physical planning, whether it is in the urban areas or in the rural areas. And we have done the following. Number 1, we have developed the National Physical Development Plan 2021 to 2040. This is the first time that Uganda is having what we call a National Physical Development Plan. And its implementation action plan was also launched in April, that it must now be implemented this year. The National Development Plan guides on developments and human settlements in the country, both rural and urban. We've also developed specific 13 physical development plans for Kamuli, Busia, Mubende, Mitiana, Entebbe, Ntungamo, Rukungiri, Kabale, Apache, Lugazi, Kotido, and Kutgum municipal councils. We have supported the districts of Kabale, Kabarole, Amudat, Chikube, Rukungiri, Bunangabo, Wakiso, Noea, Ududa, and Moroto in the cities of Jinja, Gulu, and Arua to develop physical development plans in order to guide orderly development. We have prepared physical development plans for the 11 refugee hosting districts of Terego, Madi, Arua, Terego, Madi Okolomoyo, Yumbe, Obongi, Kiriadongo, Lamoa, Adjumani, Isingiro, and Kamwenge. We have developed physical development plans for 568 parishes and 113 sub-counties to support parish development model implementation in the districts of Oyam, Maracha, Terego, Apache, Kamuli, Isingiro, Ibanda, Chikube, Sema, Namtumba, Luka, and Ntungamo. We have developed physical planning standards and guidelines to guide land use in the country. These standards are aimed at making sure that in the long run, physical development plan is done at the local level. You don't always have to look at the sender. And we have done all these. now we are dispersing the whole country. We carried out sensitization and public awareness on sustainable land development in some areas of the country. The challenges we faced in the implementation of the manifesto. Number one, increase the land evictions. You've seen our ministers always fighting in the media, recorded fighting in the media about land evictions by various categories of people. I don't need to mention who is evicting who, but it's all over the country. This is a big challenge, but we are equal to the task. And sooner or later, because of what I've read, we shall overcome. We have also faced the challenge of encroachment on government land, protected areas, particularly areas like schools, hospitals, and other public land, local government land, which has been designated. There's a lot of encroachment. Increased urbanization and urban sprawl. Uganda is urbanizing at a very fast rate of 5.2% of our population going to urban areas, compared with a population of 3.2. That means more people are going to the urban areas than the ones who are producing. And the result is that sooner or later, the entire population of Uganda will be emptied into urban areas. This creates a challenge because it means we must address it now, at the infancy. We must address the challenges of urbanization at the infancy before it goes to big areas. I don't want to say which cities or country, urban municipalities are so big that it's now difficult to manage the urban areas. Sprawling is where urban areas are growing without plan. And this, I think, with the physical plans we are doing, will soon be a matter of history. Increase the slums and informal settlements. These are inevitable, especially when many more people are coming to the urban areas and the resources are not there for them, jobs are not available, and therefore they're bound to settle where they can make a living. It is a challenge, but it must be addressed. The increase in house deficit, as I've already said, inadequate compliance to physical planning standards and guidelines. Like I said, Ugandans have not accepted at all levels that physical planning is now a must. And we're saying this should be a change in the people's mind, that physical planning, right from the home where you're putting a home, on that 1.5 acre land, up to the biggest city, we must accept that we must plan it. And then, of course, inadequate funding to implement the manifesto commitments. This is generally across all the sectors that I've read. The funds are inadequate. The way forward, the ministry will continue to work with other government agencies like the judiciary, police, etc., to curb illegal land evictions. Number two, the ministry has embarked on titling on all land, government land, starting with the schools and health centers under the Uganda Intergovernmental Physical Transfer Project. We have a fund which we call UGFIT, and we're going to use that. These efforts need to be scaled up with other ministries, departments, and agencies. The ministry is supporting a number of local governments, including cities, municipalities, and districts, to develop and implement fiscal development plans. We think this will scale down the problem so that we address it more quickly. Enhance enforcement to increase compliance to fiscal development standards and guidelines. Enforcement. There is the need to increase funding to complete implementation of the manifesto commitments. These are some of the ways forward, not necessarily all exhaustive, and I thank you.
join me to thank the Honorable Minister and his team for this presentation. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for this detailed presentation, which is giving us insights of the performances within this sector. Our observations that we want to identify with you and congratulate you on the developments within this sector, because in the course of our monitoring, we were able to witness where some of these developments have taken place, with specific reference to the UCMID projects in the different municipalities and cities. Some of our cities and municipalities now look clean because of the infrastructure developments in terms of street lighting and the roads and the drainage that have been made. And I think we have had the opportunity to be in all those listed areas, and I want to inform the country that that is a true position on that. We also want to salute the developments that have been taken in improving the land registration processes through the digitization and the other information systems that have been introduced to check the efficiencies within this very interesting and complicated matter. You know, the issue of land in this country has shifted from being a factor of production to a political issue, so sometimes it's a challenge to bring it to order. So we want to thank the Minister, Honorable Minister, and your team for the different interventions that you have made. We are also appreciative of the developments that have been made, especially in trying to bring out land justice in areas where we have had a big challenge. Some communities who were landless. These various initiatives that you have informed the country here are really helping the citizens in these areas now to have the confidence in terms of supporting their economic agenda, because land can be used as collateral, so people can go now secure funding, or they can do all the developments they want on the land with confidence, knowing that they are rightful owners. So in these areas, we want to salute the efforts that are being taken to make sure that those land injustices that had existed are being slowly but surely solved. However, Honorable Minister, with all these achievements that we are celebrating here, whenever we travel up country, and many of the viewers will bear me witness that we still experience issues of land frauds and the issue of fake titles, even when you have invested heavily in digitizing and computerizing this area. And this is not a good development, but we pray that the system that is being introduced could be, maximized to ensure that these leakages and fakes are limited to zero or are reduced considerably. And you are aware, this country we are talking about socio-economic transformation, and like I had said, land is a factor of production, but also land titles are collateral. So sometimes we get worried when we see these repeated frauds in the land sector. We even worry about the status of our mortgage industry, because if people have land, we have a lot of land, fake land titles in the hands of people, then we don't know what these banks are using to secure as collateral. The other issues are what you have touched in your challenges. We are also concerned about the land evictions that are going on in the country. But also this emanates largely through the land registration system for failure to be able to identify who is the rightful owner at a given moment or at a given time. So these also lead into violence and loss of human life, and sometimes some of them are so nasty that they have turned political, and so we need to straighten up the registration system so that we can minimize and we can be able to tell from the onset that this doesn't belong to you because the rightful owner is this, because of the registration. And I'm happy now that the Kalimzo is being digitized, which I think is the mother, is it the mother title for the whole land in the country? I don't know the rightful description in your land language. It's good, Honorable Minister, the sector and the ministry is investing seriously in improving the land fragmentation. I think this is a concern of the President, but this one will not only be solved by physical planning. I think we need also to make extra steps to sensitize further our citizens on the beauty of avoiding land fragmentation, especially at household level, because in the President's wisdom, it is better that land is kept together. Maybe the family can form cooperative societies, and the family can share the proceeds of the outputs that are invested within this land as a family, rather than splitting it up amongst the family members. The physical planning is a very welcome development in this area, because we have so many areas which have been granted city status but which are slummy, and even now they seem not to be in control of the planning process, especially in terms of gazetting which areas should serve what. And this does not reflect well in terms of beautification of our cities, and also the nature of living that is associated with these slums that grow up over time. So that we need to put strong enforcement measures in terms of compliance when it comes to physical planning, so that we can have a very organized settlements for our citizens. I think those are the areas. There was also another commitment, I think, which was to do with providing and build affordable housing for workers in industrial parks. I don't know whether you have it in your plan or your budget, which needs to be looked into. We are very happy that government has tried to support the Housing Finance Bank, and also the National Housing Corporation, because I think this is an institution that has been made redundant, and yet I think we have so many construction projects, of which if this institution was supported, probably it could take on some of the construction projects in this country. It's also another area that we could look into beyond capitalizing it, but we could also see how we leverage it in terms of the construction agenda that is going on in this country. So those are the observations from the manifesto unit. I now want to invite observations, comments, and questions from our partners, the media fraternity, and then we move on. Thank you. Yes, please. Go ahead, you can move in front and use any of those mics.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Owen Kaswalodi. I work with Baba TV. I have my concerns as follows. Is it in law that LS1 chairpersons must levy a 10% on transactions on land? Because we've seen it as becoming a common practice that whenever somebody is selling, rather purchasing land, the LS chairpersons always pose a 10% tax for their limits for their offices. But you as a lands ministry, we wish to make that is in order. Secondly, under what circumstances can land bear more than one title, land title? Because it's also becoming common in some places where we see the same land bearing different claimed to be authentic land titles. And lastly, on the issue of corruption, I wish to know what you are doing on some of the district land boards, whereby we've seen them transferring land titles to people possibly claimed to be having more money at the expenses of the known to be rightful owners, but because they are simply poor. So what are you doing against that? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else? Next. Yes, Princess.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the wonderful presentation. Again, I'm by names of Princess National Shana. I work with the Super FM. I have two questions here. One, it's all about wars in people. It's very common, and some of them have been killed because of land. So, Honorable Minister, I don't know how far have you gone about that at.
You said it's all about that? Can you repeat the question?
What should be done to make sure that wars in people must stop, because people are dying because of land and some of them have been killed? So I don't know how far have you gone, at least to make sure that that one must stop. Then another question is on the issue of forging papers. It's also very common. People forging papers and they want to take land for free. So I don't know whether there's a way also to stop that. I think these are my questions.
Okay, thank you, Princess.
Thank you, Chair. And let me thank the Minister for the wonderful presentation. My name is Lini Katigundu. I work for SPA, an online media platform. I simply have two questions. The first question is, how is the Ministry of Lands helping this country in fighting corruption? Because it's common practice that most of the corrupt public servants steal money and they invest this money in buying land. You find someone earning 3 million per month but is owning 2 square miles of land. Is there a way the Ministry of Land is trying to track on whether this is really clean money that is used to buy these big chunks of land? So, the second question is about how is a caveat effected? Because it's a common practice that people are misusing this caveat. Someone goes on my piece of land, effects a caveat, then the next day is coming to bargain with me to be like, if you give me some money, I can put the caveat off. So what law and who is supposed to effect and caveat and how can it be removed? Thank you.
Okay. Do we have more questions? Somebody.
Thank you so much. I thank the Minister for the wonderful presentation. My name is Ibarako. I work on the CTA, Exam Media. My question goes to still the challenge you are facing of land eviction. I don't know how you are going to tackle it, or the plans you have, in that most of these issues of land eviction, you find that the person or some of them reports, they always claim to be government officials. So, in a sense that the poor are being oppressed. Someone will come in the news, others even will go to an extent of claiming that they are from a state house. So, in that sense, in one way or the other, even the government loses its name within the people down in the brush. Now, how is it going to be worked on such that these people who claim to be in the government and use it as a cover to oppress others? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. My name is Boji Yera from East African Watch. Mine is about to urban planning. Prime Minister, as a country, when you compare with other cities in the world, especially Kampala, another city, do you have a clear plan of how can you utilize the small land you have around Kampala, rather than extending to Wero, to Pigi, to other areas, encroaching on land, which will be used for agriculture for local people? And how do you have this plan where you can have people, so many people living in a small place, design a mini plan, small place, to avoid wasted land around the cities or towns?
Okay. I think that marks the end of the questions from the audience. Honorable Minister, I will once again invite you to make clarifications or taking note of the issues raised here. And you are also at liberty to invite any of your technical teams with you here to support you in the relevant responses of the areas raised. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I will answer probably a few, and others I will let my team who are available to answer. And a number of the questions are related, fraud and so forth. So if I don't specifically call your name when I'm answering, please, you understand. Secondly, I was unable to take the names and the media where you work. So when I'm going to answer, I'll just look at the question. And if I have not answered your question, or if you have not answered at the end, you let us know the question again. Now, first of all, the comments from the director. Land frauds and fake titles, these are still noticeable. Yes. Remember, land issues have been here for a very long period of time. And some of these questions have been accumulated. Issues have been accumulated. It's not only yesterday that we started registering, including issues of fraud, fake titles, and so forth. In fact, to tell you the truth, the last 2 years, the Ministry of Lands has been using to try to clean what was done in the past. And I'm not allocating any blame to anybody. These things happen, and it's part of our growth as a country. Having said that, what is the way forward? The way forward is, number one, for people to report any issue of fraud and fake titles. It doesn't matter when it originated. As long as it is proved to be fraud or fake, it will be dealt with. So let everybody be prepared to report. And the reporting points are everywhere. We have the 22 zones. We have the land boards. We have the ministry. Of course, There are no angels in this. And some of them could even be originating from those offices. But the important thing is report it. Now the current one, we have a system of issuing out titles. The ICT system, the land information system, is now set in such a way that if you get in there to issue a land title, you will leave a trail. You must leave a trail. There's no way you can get into that system. So it is easy to find out who has done that mistake. So if we report, currently we can find out who has done that mistake. If it was done in the long past, we shall also use the same system to address whether it was genuine or not. If it was genuine, we shall find if we find the genuine owner, we shall resolve the matter. So the first thing is report, report, report. Don't take the law into your hands. The authorities, they're the police, there's everybody, there are the land officials everywhere if you have a land issue. Number two, if you have any doubts, let us use the current system. And second, I talked about the portal, the land information portal, which is now in the 22 zonal offices. Please, it doesn't take you a lot of time, and it secures your future for the rest of your holding of that title. If you just take a little time before you transact in any land to make sure you check that title with that zone. It may cost you a day, it may cost you some money, but you are saving so much trouble in the future, and we shall help you. So these issues of fraud, issues of fake titles, they are definitely temporary, and they're out on their way, and we in the ministry right now are committed. And if we find anybody who has done it currently, we'll dismiss that person. We will. And then land fragmentation to be minimized partly by physical planning. That's correct, but not totally. Land fragmentation is about you using your land. How do you use your land to the maximum benefit? We shall go out to sensitize. But I think the biggest sensitizer on this issue has been the President. His Excellency the President. He has sent a simple word to the country. He has said, please plot your 4 acres, how to use them. If you are a big family and the head of the family has died, do not divide that piece of land. Form a group to use it. Use it as a family while you acquire other land from elsewhere. Because today, if you are 5 in a house and you divide 4 acres of land among yourselves, in 10 years you will have children. You'll probably be 50. How much will you be dividing? Just in 10 years, you'll be about 50. And then give another 20 years, you'll be 100. What will you be dividing? So this message of the President is sacrosanct. It is really the truth. We must all go out. The media, my colleagues, the media, we must go out and sensitize. We must sensitize our people. The Secretariat has already said it. There's nothing you can do without land. There is everything you can do with the best use of land. And this is the way to go. Housing in industrial parks, our philosophy and our current thinking about housing is to involve everybody. Private partnerships, and I think here, the industrial zone, in the industrial zones, the industries which are operating in those industrial zones should be the first people to take the lead. And we come to supporting them. Together with them, we can determine the kind of houses which they can use, they can build, the kind of materials which they can use. Because at the end of the day, those houses must belong to somebody. they must belong to those workers and their families. They cannot be government houses. So to us, the solution is PPP. These banks I talked about, the National Housing Construction, all those are just coming to help in the implementation of the policy. Now, somebody asked about the role of the LC1s on land transaction. Is it a law or not? There is no law which says that an LC1 must sign your document before it becomes acceptable for Minister of Lands to issue a title. No. The LC1 is merely a witness, if he so wishes to be. For example, when you are buying land, the best witnesses are those people who are going to be your neighbors. The one whose land is in the east, the one who is in the north, the one who is in the west, the one who is in the center, the one who is in the left or the right center of you, or surrounding you. Those are people who know the history of that land more than anybody, than even the elders. Then these other community members can come to support. So it's not mandatory. But the LC1s have been useful in the use that they were able to support and identify what is right and what's wrong. I agree with you, a number of them are doing a very good job, but a number of them have gone out of the way. They've commercialized it. They've really commercialized it. With the threats, you don't give me the money, I will not sign, and this man should not even sell the land, we shall evict him from this place. No. Those are mere threats, and they are illegal. So there's no basis. Under what circumstances can the same land have two titles? That is either under fraud, under criminality. That is the only circumstances under which the same title should be, the same land should have two titles, two or more. Let's call it multiple titles. It is criminality, it is a fraud, and it is what I've already said, it must be reported. And this is what we're moving to eliminate. We may not have finished it, but we shall finish it if we can be supported as the Minister of Lands by reporting. If you have any doubts about your land, if you are suspicious about its authenticity and originality, kindly approach one of our zones and we should be able to help you. Land transferred by land boards to those with most money. Of course, that's another illegality. That's another illegality. The only problem here is our people need to be sensitized about their rights. Because I'm rich, doesn't mean that I have more rights than the other people over my land. No. That is, so if we can sensitize our people and make them to stand up for their rights, this kind of thing will not happen. Because Minister of Lands cannot come and say, from now on, no rich people should go and buy land. Even if I said it here now, they will actually be flocking. And the other people will say, this rich man has come, he's brought us money for me, I'm going to do this. They will ignore my advice. But people must come out and stand for what is right. It will work, and it will help to eliminate this situation. What should be done to stop land wars? I think that question is also partly answered by what I've already said. Because land wars are taking place. Even the government cannot take policemen to put everywhere there's going to be a land war. Because we do not know until it has happened. And by the time the government comes there, it will have happened. So the only way to make sure that land wars are stopped is for the government, through the Minister of Lands, to do its best to sensitize the people about their land rights. As many people as possible to register their land, to register the public land, to make sure that what is legally done by the ministry is done. And then after that, make sure that the people report what is not done properly by other people. How do we stop forged papers? There's no, there are 10, I belong to a religion called the Catholic Church. And there are 10, they say there are 10 commandments. However much you sing these commandments every Sunday, every religious day, people are every day breaking them. Every day. Why do you think we go to Sunday, every Sunday? We go to pray in order to come out, not even waiting for Monday, but immediately after the prayers to start breaking those laws. So breaking laws is a natural thing, it will happen. It is in human nature. That's why government makes its own laws to control it. And if all these laws can be accepted by the people, then we should be able to control them. How is the government fighting, the ministry fighting corruption by people buying land? I didn't phrase it correctly, but really it is the same thing. Government has a responsibility to sensitize the people, to register their land, to make sure that people own proper titles. But after that, there is also a responsibility of the public and our landowners to come forward and make sure. For example, what we are doing in Bunyoro is both making sure that we fight corruption, but also fight what the director said is historical injustices. That is what the government must do and continue to do everywhere. Misuse of caveat, can I ask or Mr. Bo, you will answer that. Land evictions claim to be from government. No. Because I'm in the government, it doesn't give me a license, colleagues. Ugandans, it doesn't give me a license to go and commit a crime. I am equal before the law. I'm equal for the same punishment. So somebody saying there, I'm evicting you, but don't do anything because I come from State House, I'm a minister, is not in any way an answer. And it should never be accepted. The people have a right and ways and means to challenge that. Even if the person is a gunman and he wants to kill you there and then, don't allow yourself to be killed. Buy time, make sure you report it somewhere. And it is now the duty of the government to make sure that it secures your life. So the question of saying I'm from government, therefore I have a right to steal. I'm from, not only that, even I'm from, in one or two cases where we've even seen some people who said, I'm a man of God, don't challenge me. I'll call God to come and ban you. We've seen these things. Some of you, the media, you have reported these things yourselves. You've seen them. That does not absorb anybody. Plan how to use the available land within. How do we plan to use the available land in the urban areas? Yes. There are two ways. The kind of buildings which we should put in urban areas. Should they be single-storied or high-storied? That's why you find in some other areas, accommodation in urban areas is now going upwards because there's a lot of space up. You can put it. 120-story buildings, 150-story buildings, and so forth. But there is also the horizontal expansion. As long as it is properly planned, I think in Uganda it can still accommodate properly. It can still accommodate. If I can give Kampala as an example, as an urban area, we have an opportunity to plan the satellite cities in Kampala now, before they become like the Kampala Central Business Center. If you wanted to replan Kampala Central Business Center, it will cost you 3 times the cost of a new city. You'd have to break buildings, you'd have to compensate people and so forth. And yet, if you plan in the outskirts, Kasangati, these others, Nigeria, and so forth, you might even do a better job in that area. These are some of the questions that I should answer. But before I leave, because I don't intend to come back, let me ask Ugandans for three things. Maintenance of what government is doing. Maintain it. Every individual should be able to maintain and protect what government has done. For example, the director talked about the projects of USMID. We, the implementers of USMID, we've withdrawn. We've now left it to the local governments where the projects are located. The local governments, together with the central governments, must move together with all Ugandans to maintain and keep those manholes. Don't make them dumping places for drainage. Maintain them. Number two, comply with the rules and regulations. These rules are not for me, they are not for President Museveni, they are not for the NRM government, they are for the people of Uganda. That's what they are for. And it so happens that most of the products of the Ministry of Lands require compliance. If you look at the products that I've talked about here, they really talk about compliance. Everybody has to comply. And lastly, the enforcement agencies should come out and make sure that what we've done, there's enforcement against what goes wrong to what we've already said. Otherwise, I thank you very much. Let me ask my colleague to come and answer the issue of the caveat and any other comment that you may want to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The questions, there was a question on the caveats. Now, caveats are meant to protect claims of genuine persons that are not owners. And the basis for registering these caveats is that actually those that are presenting them are presenting something that is truthful. So what you need to present a caveat, you definitely need a set of the documents, that the issues that the claims that you're making, and these must be witnessed by an advocate of the High Court, and there must also be a statutory declaration that is signed by a commissioner of oath to show that actually what you're saying is the truth. Now, that means that you have the caveat, the affidavit, you also have to pay some fees to URA, and I think it is 10,000 shillings for registration of the caveat, and stamp duty, which is 20,000. That is all you need to register a caveat, whether you're rich, whether you are poor. Now, there are types of caveats. There are those that are temporary. Most of them are sometimes placed by courts of laws, and then there are those that are permanent, the beneficiary caveats. So it depends on what caveat you're placing. In all this, you need guidance from the advocate to help you write and present these papers. And when you're presenting them, you also add your passport photograph and national identity card, NIN, because those are now mandatory for any transaction that you are doing, not only caveat. You require a national identity card. It's in the law, the NERA Act, Section 66. Now, I also would want to add to what the minister has mentioned. For the land management institutions, definitely, the area land committees are not part. Yes.
On the caveats, tell the country, how do we in life handle caveats? When someone places caveat,
Yes.
on a title of the Ministry of Lands, how do we, it's a process, not a system, and until when is it marketed?
Thank you, Minister. Now, once you have handed in the documents I have mentioned, the caveat itself, the affidavit, the passport photograph, the receipts of payment, these are received and an acknowledgement is given at the front desk. They are all scanned into the National Land Information System, and a process of inputting them is also done before they are presented to the Registrar of Titles. All the documentation are given by the system, and it's automatic, an instrument number and a transaction number to track it. The person who has submitted is notified by SMS on their phone that your documents have been received. Remember, you also have to give us a mobile phone number. So we have a notification facility. You receive a notification message saying that the caveat has been received and it is being processed. Once it is looked at and given it has been passed by our own staff within the system, it is then allocated what we call an instrument number, and that instrument number can only be given to that transaction and no any other transaction document. It is then proceeded and registered, and once it is registered on the system, the person who has registered it, their names are also captured for purposes of audit trail in case there are any queries. Once it is completed, then the owner receives a message back, that a notification message that your caveat has been registered and you can now come and collect your documentation. That is the back end process inside after a caveat document has been received by an applicant. Now, I also wanted to mention the institutions actually, other than the LC, which we deal with, the land management institutions. Most of our applicants do not know these. The land management institutions are the area land committees, the lower physical planning committees, we have the district land office, the district land board, and the ministry zonal office. It is these within the land law that do carry out transactions regarding land under the Land Act and the Land Registration Act and the Physical Planning Act. Those are the land management institutions. We do not actually have the area land committees as the LCs as part of the land management committees. Now, there was also the issue of what we are doing to try to register land for the poor. The program that the minister talked about, systematic land adjudication, it is a project that takes care of everybody, the rich, the poor, the educated, non-educated, anybody, as long as you have a claim, you have a piece of land, and you have been identified as the rightful owner. Government has actually subsidized the cost for this registration. The owners only pay 10,000 shillings for the customary registration, while those who want the freeholds pay 85,000 shillings. The rest of the costs have been highly subsidized by government. And there are processes and timelines for these to issue these titles. So in terms of what should we do to stop conflict, that is the key thing. We must all be able to register our land. Whether you are an owner or you are an occupant, the law has provided for registration of both. Even occupants, where we have given the certificates of occupancy in Mubende, Madudu, conflicts have come to an end. Of course, it is important that the owners do identify with the occupants. The occupants must meet their obligations of paying busulu, and then the owners give consent, and the sub-counties are the ones that do issue the certificates of occupancy. Once these are issued, they are forwarded to the ministry zonal office, and they are encumbered on the titles of the owners, so that anybody carrying out a search knows that on this specific land, they are occupants, and this is the acreage of land they have. So it is something that we are hoping probably we should be able to take forward and make sure that all occupants in areas where the evictions get legal documentation. On the issues of forgeries, those I would like to add to what the minister has said, that we work closely with the CID of police, the Financial Intelligence Agency, and the Office of the Administrator General. Those three are very critical. Actually, for Administrator General's office, any document sent before it is registered, it must be sent back and verified as a true copy. These are all efforts and others that we are trying to put in place to fight fraud and forgery. Thank you.
So join me once again to give a big applause for these responses. I want to thank you, Honorable Minister, and your team for this elaborate presentation. Ugandans, wherever you are, I think you have been able to share, one, in the achievements that so far have been registered in this sector. Two, some insights on probably a few issues that have been of challenge. And I hope the Honorable Minister and his team have been able to explain that should be able to keep us focused on our journey to live in a better Uganda. So this now marks the end of this session. Once again, I thank you all, our partners, thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow we'll be here, and we'll begin in the morning with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries. And then in the afternoon we'll be having Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Once again, thank you so much, and I hope we still request our viewers, wherever you are, please tune in to keep alive of the Accountability Week that is being executed here at the office of the President. I now invite you to raise for the national anthems in the reverse order, and I declare the session officially closed. Once again, the soft copies are available for all the presentations. You go through the Secretariat, but also we have a video